Live.
We are live now, and I say welcome very much at the Günther Fellinger podcast. Our podcast is developing very well. We have now crossed 145,000 on X and also 16,700 on YouTube. And I just released a new podcast today, actually about Kosovo's Independence Day with Ronald Kokelari. You will see it live on my feed. And also, we are continuing our series of debates with many of the new countries which want to join the European Union, and also many of the countries which are already a long time on my show, also in the European Union. On my show, you could see a discussion with a Swedish representative, with a Portuguese representative, and all this material you can find on the Günther Fellinger podcast at my YouTube channel and also later at the Spotify channel. That's what we are doing here. And this morning, it's a special day. It's the start of the Catholic Christian Lent season and also of the Ramadan. Today, at the same day, this Wednesday, we are basically celebrating the two big religions, which are also very important for the Albanians. And today, of course, as you can see, the topic is Albania. And today, I have a representative from Albania here. It's Orsin from a movement which is trying to reform Albania, as much as I understand it, and hopefully also supporting Albania joining the European Union, because this is my big effort here and our effort with all my partners and friends in Austria. We are trying to lift Albania into the European Union 2029, that Orsin and all his compatriots can vote in the European Parliament election 2029. That's the bigger picture. And now we come, of course, to Orsin. He is from which city? And tell us a little bit about yourself and about your movement. We want to learn everything about you. Orsin, the floor is yours. You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you, Gunther. I come from the capital of Albania, from Tirana.
The old city of Tirana, which I love so much.
Okay, I've been here all my life. I was born here, and much of my activities have been around here
Tell me
for the
about
most part.
what have you done up to now, which is your age, and what's your background a bit? You're working,
Well, my age is I am 29 at the current moment, and my background is I have a master's degree in philosophy and a bachelor's in journalism. But I don't take those much seriously, as I would say, because here in Albania you tend to learn things. Life teaches you things more than school teaches you things, and it's like this for all of the Balkans, really. So yeah. As for my
I lived 6 years in Tirana, and it's a city you can learn a lot, and really you learn to love, because it's an amazing and beautiful city. I call it always the New York of the Balkans, and it's actually a very dynamic, beautiful city. I recommend everybody to go, and you are very lucky to live in that beautiful city.
I agree, but I would say that Tirana has a pretty long way to become the New York of the Balkans, because I mean it is a nice city. I can say that it is a nice city, but at the same time, if you compare it to big cities like New York, like New York is the center of finance, right, in the United States, and if you would compare it to California, then it would have to be the center of tech innovation. And as of now, we are not quite sure what we possess here that makes us comparable to these big innovation hubs
Of
of
you,
the Western Hemisphere.
very big buildings. I was always amazed. You have now, I think, 50 floors, 70 floors are here. I am planning. So it's very surprising, because many people in Europe have the feeling that Tirana and Albania is still one of the poorest places in the world and nothing is happening there. And when you go there and you see all the skyscrapers and the huge dynamic city development, you are very positively surprised.
Well, yes. I mean, when you see the big buildings, you might think that there is much going on in those buildings. But I assure you that Like most of the time, the buildings are big and they throw a big shade over the city, but I would say they're empty for the present moment, and they have been empty for quite some time now. So it's not even about a few months of distance from the time they were built. It's about years of distance from the time they were built, and they remain empty. I mean, most of them are empty. So maybe there are some shady things going on there, but I mean that would be another topic, another topic entirely. But yeah, I mean the city center
Yes. Tell me
has
about
been
yourself, your movements, your movements. You have several websites and youth movements, Reore and others. I want to know everything about them. What's your
okay.
please?
Okay, that would require some time because Berora is, let us say that if you read Berora on the platform X, then you are basically reading a book because what we write over there has a special meaning to us and has a special meaning to Albania. So basically, what you read over there is telling a story in and of itself. And if you read the website, which is berora.al, the website has a different tint. So the website is a theoretical website. So it deals with the theoretical principles of the movement. It deals with the sort of books that we might want our audience to read and educate itself upon. And it has to do like mainly the website is an educational website, as I would put it. But the website itself, even the website tells its own story. So there is a let me say there is some sort of educational evolution or an educational timeline on the website, because like with time we have evolved ideologically from being simply conservative or a bit more right-leaning uh, in relation to the center-right spectrum. We have evolved to adhering to certain principles from an intellectual current of the 30s in Germany, which was called the Conservative Revolution. And we have evolved to become aligned with several principles of the Conservative Revolution, namely the principle of conserving old traditions while bringing them to a new form of government.
So you
And
don't
we
like
believe
Eddie Rama very much, I guess.
we don't. I mean, the entire country doesn't like Edi Rama very much. It's not just us. But the thing is that in Albania, things are rarely as they look. You see, like you mentioned the buildings at the beginning of our conversation, and you mentioned how nice they looked. But in Albania, things are rarely how they look. And I mean, Edi Rama might put up a good image for himself when he comes over there in Europe. He might put some fancy shenanigans, like he comes dressed in suits that combine with the colors of his tie, and the colors of his ties are very provocative and they are pleasing to the eye. But I don't think that he comes as an emissary of the Albanians over there. But he almost definitely comes in as an emissary of himself. So he is quite good at presenting himself to the European establishment. But by presenting himself, he's not presenting the reality of Albania, because the reality of Albania is not presented by putting a nice tie over a suit. All right, like the reality of Albania. I mean, we talked a little bit. Like I keep going back to the reality of the capital, right? So we talked about the big buildings. So at the present moment, Tirana, the capital, might host like 1/3 of Albania's population. And if you move a bit further to the north, then you will find out that it gets progressively more empty as you move up to the north. And if you move down to the south, it gets even progressively empty when you go down the south.
I
So
lived 6 years in Albania, and I know basically all of Albania, most of the cities very well. And it's actually sadly true that especially when you go outside of the big area around Tirana and Durrës, you have much less population and the poverty is also increasing dramatically. That's very sad.
Yes, and you don't have the tech innovation you would expect in places like Tirana. In fact, like most of the people in those towns, I mean, I call them towns, but some of them are starting to resemble ghost towns. Uh, Most of the people there live like I mean, they live a simple life, and of course they try to live with dignity, right? But it's not like the infrastructure over there is very well developed. As you see, even with the scrutiny that the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy was put under in lately, you can find out that most of the roads are not that very well built because some months pass and the concrete and the asphalt starts to diminish.
Austin, tell me about it because I lived in Tirana under the time of Berisha, and it was very dynamic time with a lot of highways being built to Kosovo and everywhere to the north also. But then suddenly there is a little bit of a lack since Rama is in power in 2013. This is now 13 years. There hasn't been a lot of progress, and recently there was this big scandal about Mrs. Paluco. What's this all about?
Okay, so as I would say, in the times of Berisha, Albania wore a shirt, but the shirt was not torn. But now, in the times of Rama, Albania wears a nice coat, but the shirt underneath is torn. So yeah, I mean, the times of Berisha were dynamic times, and the people back then had hope. At least they had hope, because well, I mean, when people cease to have hope, then you know that the country is heading to the point of no return. So yeah, back then I would say Berisha started to build things, but more than anything, Berisha did not want to destroy the hope of the Albanians. So he tolerated some things on the side, right? He told to himself and he told to his cabinet that if the Albanians are to prosper, they must progressively and slowly learn how to be European, right? But when Rama came, what he did instead is that he transformed the facade of the country into the facade of a European country, and took away the hope of the Albanians for a better future, all in all. And the thing about
Now
the
still in power in the opposition, I understand. He is the leader of the opposition, Sali Berisha. And recently there were some protests in the streets and there was world attention on Molotov cocktails again. What was this all about?
Okay, so I think you must understand the context of the usage of the Molotov cocktails, all right? Because uh, I, in the last 2 years, Albania has gone from trying to preserve the illusion of democracy, of not trying to preserve it at all. So they don't even try to preserve the illusion of democracy. Because you must understand, Günther, that Albania is a difficult political environment. Because this principle of things not being as they look stretches to all facets of life. And since Albania is not a very easy political environment, it's not a very democratic political environment. I mean, I say myself jokingly to my friends, I say that democracy in Albania exists once in 4 years, like one day in 4 years, every 4 years. That's democracy in Albania, and even during that day, you have to guard the votes. You have to hire armed guards to guard the votes from being stolen. So yeah, I would say that the usage of Molotov cocktails is a message that the opposition is giving to the current government, that we won't tolerate you to strip down our civil liberties. Because as of now, Günther, people are being arrested for nothing, and
Yeah.
people people are being arrested for protesting in the streets. So 2 days ago, a friend of mine, a 20-year-old guy, a political activist, he was arrested in Durrës for nothing, for just protesting on the street. Last year, here in Tirana, I was arrested for an X post.
You were arrested
So
for an X post for X?
yes, for a post on X.
Oh, that's terrible. How come? It's freedom of speech in Albania, I think.
I mean, yeah, freedom of speech in paper. Like most of the time, it's freedom of speech in paper. And if you, like in Albania, there are two outcomes. There are two possible outcomes in Albania. So if you start to say the truth in Albania, you are either shunned, so you are either isolated, or you are taken out in some dark alley of the city at night.
Really?
About
Tell me, what
yeah.
you post on X? Yeah, because I post every day 100 things on X. Yeah, and I was never arrested in Austria. So tell me what happened. What did you do that you were punished?
I think to myself that I started to uncover a conspiracy that had to do with the government, that had to do with government people. It was related to a certain line of action from some government people, which was an impediment to democracy itself and was an impediment even to the future of Albania itself. And it had to do with our relation, our political relation to the United States of America back at the time.
Is this connected with the big scandal where there was this FBI agent in New York, which was corrupted supposedly by some representatives from Albania? Unfortunately, I don't remember the name. There was a big scandal 2 years ago. Or what was the scandal about?
Well, I think you are talking about Charles McGonigal,
Yes, exactly.
right? The New York the head of counterintelligence, FBI counterintelligence in New York City, and he was found out to be on the payroll of a Russian oligarch,
Of the
and
Deripaska.
while Oleg Deripaska, yes, and while being on that payroll, he also took money from Albanian politicians to do God knows what, and he even tried to blackmail certain Albanian businessmen in order to extort more money. And yeah, I don't think that the plot that I was uncovering, it wasn't on that particular scale, but it was at a quite massive scale because like uh, back then and for the last 2 years, like people here in Albania, they have noticed something, but they rarely speak about it openly. And they have noticed that the country is isolating itself from what it perceives to be a shift in the world order, which came to be about by the changing of the administration in the United States of America. And Albania is trying to keep, let me say, a cold, neutral position on that. And there are political factions in Albania which think that a cold, neutral position on that is wrong. And there are political factions who would have us just cut relations altogether with the United States because they are afraid that further scrutiny from the United States of America would endanger particular parts of the political elite here.
But you know, the world and also me, I have actually seen Eddie Rama quite smart hedging his bets before the American elections because he is famously connected with the Soros family. I think they always put selfies out, so it's no secret. Alex Soros and Eddie Rama have this kind of political or whatever love affair that we can say very clearly. But it's also that he has presented more or less this island next to Flora to the family of Mr. Trump before the elections. And so he has somehow hedged his bets, no matter what the outcome of the 2004 elections, 24 elections will be. And so with Trump's family back in power, now I see that Ivanka and Jared have been visiting to Flora, and they have been they got actually this islands, the Sasan Island. And so, wasn't that a smart move of Edi Rama to be in both camps and to play the American politics in the favor of Albania?
Well, let me say that, as I told you before, like wherever Edirama goes, he goes as an emissary of himself. So he represents himself. I don't think that the current business deal he has with Jared Kushner, it doesn't do anything good or bad diplomatically to Albania. It might do something good to the current political elite of Albania, but it doesn't do anything good or bad in the short or the long term to Albania itself as a state. So it doesn't represent a realignment regarding foreign policy, or it doesn't represent a closer alignment with the civilizational interests of the United States as outlined in the State Department mission statement last year. So I'm sure that he played both sides. Of that, I'm quite sure that he played both sides, and he played them wisely. And I would also say that Kushner would be interested to do that island deal with Berisha as well if Berisha was in power. So Kushner, at the end of the day, Kushner is a businessman. Kushner is not a politician, and Kushner does not represent. I mean, I personally I think that he doesn't represent the political interests of either the Republican Party or the Make America Great Again movement. So at the end of the day, you have two businessmen sitting on a common table, and the first businessman is American. He wants to build a resort on an island, and you have the second businessman who is supposed to be a politician, not a businessman. And he is supposed to bring us a better future. He's not supposed to sell parts of the country away. So when it comes to when it comes to that, I would say that this deal of Sazan, this deal of the island, sounds to me and looks to me more like a deal done in the terms of Soros than in the terms of Trump, because of the conditions involved to make the deal possible, and the short and the long-term profit of the deal itself.
So you don't think it's profitable for Albania to have such a big, maybe 2 billion euro investment? It is promoted in the media.
Well, it might create jobs in the short term, right? It might create several thousand jobs in the short term, but I think that Albania right now, and I think that concurs with the vision that Donald Trump has for his civilizational allies in Europe. I think that Albania right now must focus on concrete investments. So concrete development, the development of industry, the development of critical infrastructure. Okay, so critical infrastructure right now in Albania is at critical levels of development, because you see, like, you have 13 years of the politicians saying over and over that they are going to develop the main port of Albania, which is Porto Romano in Durrës. They were going to develop it, and they were going to make it a hub for regional trade. And I think that it has the potential to become a hub for regional trade, and it even has potential to compete with neighboring countries when it comes to that. But you see, like, in 13 years, you see nothing but talk. Even by the government in Kosovo, like the government in Kosovo has been saying for the last 8 years that they're going to build a railroad, and that railroad is going to connect Albania to Kosovo, and it will facilitate trade and the exchange of goods. But at the end of the day, it's all talk. I mean, the plans are there, and I know personally, I know very competent people who helped draw the plans. The plans are there, but I mean, nobody is paying mind to the plans. So I think that as for the moment, like, Albania needs less flashy images for the media, and it needs more development in a concrete sense, in a feasible sense,
But I was
right?
in Kosovo 2 years ago with a business delegation, and we met Prime Minister Kurti, and he told us that this railway will be called the Karl Ritter von Gega Railway, after this famous Albanian who built the Austrian railways during the monarchy from Linz, from Vienna to Graz. And he has actually promised this to us, that this railway will be built and it will have this name of this Austrian Albanian famous engineer. So this project is not happening now?
As far as I know, the project has not begun yet.
That's very bad. And Porto Romano, I was personally involved very much 15 years ago when I lived in Albania. And we were all talking that this new harbor north of Durrës, to remove the commercial port north and to build a big new energy hub and port and a deep sea port and a NATO port, because Albania as a NATO ally needs also to be able to service big ships of NATO. And all these things will be built. And now I hear nothing is happening.
I'm very well aware of those plans regarding the deep sea port and the NATO presence. But as of the current moment, something happened with the public procurement process in regards to the port, and as of now, I don't think that anything has started or will start in the near future.
Austin, tell us a little bit, because you didn't lift the whole secret why you were with this exposed, why you were punished. What was the story you discovered? You want to talk about it, or it's secret, or you don't wanna? I don't wanna push you too hard for it. But if you want to tell, you can tell.
I think that there are certain elements within Albania's politics, which, as I told you before, I mean, there comes a time in the life and death of political elites when the political elite starts to care only about itself, right? So they identify themselves with the flag, they identify themselves with the people, exactly, and they are able to do anything to preserve their own power. And I think that in this particular case, it was something like this. So I had uncovered the deep roots of a political class in Albania, which, or let's say, of a particular faction of the Albanian elite that is very adamant, or should I even say, is very prone to selling the whole country if they must preserve their own political seat. And like as I told you, Brerore is an educational platform, so we educate the public. As time passes, we educate the public on very crucial and important topics for the future of the nation. And I think that this uh, faction of the political elite was disturbed by this kind of educational mission that we were undertaking. And they tried to isolate us, and they tried to, let's say, orchestrate a little bit of an arrest, right, for intimidation purposes. And it doesn't help that the arrest came right about 1 or 2 weeks after we held a memorial about Charlie Kirk in Tirana, about the murder of Charlie Kirk. We held a memorial, and the situation precipitated from that point onwards. So I would say that I was very close to discovering the crux of the problem in Albania, the essence of the political problem in Albania, the essence of the relations between state figures, state figures and political figureheads. I was about to discover the essence. I was about to discover how it all worked, and most importantly, I was about to discover why things don't work around here, like why things never seem to move an inch from where they are supposed to be.
Austin, but now you make me curious, because for a humble Austrian, I've tried to think and a friend of Albania, which I try to be since the first time I visited Albania in '98, actually, on invitation of Gens Polo when I was the EDS chairman of the EPP. I went there and it was total disaster. And so ever since this now, whatever, 30 years soon, I'm very much involved and trying to help Albanian politicians, Albania to develop, Albanians in Austria. And I always try to understand what exactly it keeps Albania back. Yeah? This is something I really want to find out. And if you can tell me now, this would be very good here on our show here today this morning on Ramadan. I would be so happy to find out because I always, I'm also a capitalist theorist. So I try to understand what exactly makes countries rich and why they are developing, how to make countries from poor communist countries into rich capitalist countries. I try to find out Albania is a quite unique case in that sense because of the very terrible nature of your communist dictatorship and of your very, very chaotic transition in the 90s with something close to civil war in 97. And then, of course, the consequences of the Kosovo Liberation War in 99. And you basically have now just 25 normal years when you can call them normal. And I'm very much keen, of course, to help Albania to join the European Union now. And you have achieved NATO already. But I never understood where this really little knot is. We have to cut the Gordian knot in order to make you grow faster. And I've written actually many articles about it. Some of your friends might who listen will know I've written many articles in my publication, The European Tax Reformers, about the flat tax. I was actually campaigning for the flat tax in that Berisha did it together with our friends. I was so happy. And then Abu Ahmedai has killed the flat tax in 2013, 14. I was very sad. And then he kicked me out of Albania, actually. That's the short story of my life in Albania. I was very happy when he was chased out of Albania recently. I think he is in Switzerland now, and he is involved in these big corruption scandals about the earthquake fund. So we can talk about all these things. But now you, Osin, tell me, what is the real thing which keeps Albania back? Where is the nexus between corruption, politics, business? We want to know.
So the essential thing, I think, I mean, according to my opinion, is like, as a friend of mine would say, like at the present moment, Albania does not lack a big list of documents about potential reforms. All right, like we have a really big list of documents containing potential reforms, and like we have the best minds here. We have the best minds here who draw these plans, but like almost never, they never seem to materialize. So I have like, I have a hybrid thesis about the current situation. So in my opinion, from the one side, it's the communist legacy. And why I say the communist legacy, because you cannot transform the will and the mind and the hearts of a people by just formally changing the system, by just formally changing the constitution, changing the form of representation, changing the electoral code, and so on and so forth. You cannot do that. So the first aspect of the problem, or the first aspect of my thesis, is the spiritual aspect of the thesis. So Albania, first and foremost, has deep spiritual ailments that need fixing. Because if you mentioned corruption as a problem, so what is the root and the stem of corruption? Corruption lies in people's hearts. It's not something. It's not something that you wake up one day and you are presented with two options, and the first option is corruption, and the second option is good governance, and you make a rational choice to be a corrupted person. It's way more deep-seated than that. It's not a rational decision. It's a spiritual ailment, and sadly, it is a collective spiritual ailment that has its roots back in the days of communism, because back in the days of communism, the Albanian people were taught how to fight each other, and that has endured up to the present day. And back then, people used to fight each other because the subject of the economic class stood over their heads like the sword of Damocles. So you had people who fought each other because the family of the enemy were landowners or they were merchants, or something like that. But these days, you have another pathology. So you have the pathology of the communist class being transformed into a quite biological vat of people who who have captured Albania, have captured the state of Albania, and whose biological constitution is all that matters to them. So until yesterday, the civil war was justified in terms of class warfare. But today and onwards, the civil war is justified on the basis of familial ties within the ruling elite. So that is one, I mean, that is part of what I consider as a spiritual ailment for Albanians collectively. And the other part is that, like, you know, that the Albanians have like these two very well-known sayings. That the first saying is that the religion of the Albanians is Albania, and the second saying is that Albania is unique because in Albania there is no religious conflict. I think that to take pride in either one is a severe mistake, because you cannot expect to have a population which stands on the precipice of spiritual alignment all the time. Because if you have a population that stands on that precipice, then you have a population which is prone to corruption. And you have a population.
In my podcast, I have an interview with the former president Nishani. He unfortunately passed away, but he was a very, very moral leader, and he gave me a very good interview. And in his timeline, you can still find the 69 explosion of churches, which the communist dictator, he visibly, like it was a public show, yeah? He exploded churches and he dynamited them into destruction. And I think maybe this complete annihilation of religion and the cultural heritage of Albania during this extreme form of communism, which Enver Hoxha practiced, is still leaving a lot of the scars on the soul of the Albanian people. Don't you think that this is one of the reasons, this war against religion which Enver Hoxha has done?
Well, I think that, I mean, he destroyed the buildings, but to destroy religion itself, you have to destroy the hearts of the people, right? Because, like it says in the New Testament that the kingdom of God is within you. So your heart is the temple of God, all right? So even if you destroy the buildings, like you can still keep the religion in your heart. The thing is that this extreme form that civil war took in Albania, civil class warfare took in Albania, but in my opinion, in a deeper sense, it was just a war for power, a war to preserve the power of the communist elite. This this destroyed the hearts of the Albanian people. And when religion came back in the 90s, religion did not come back in a positive sense. It did not come back in the sense that it would enrich us spiritually in order to rebuild the country. Religion came back to establish its own kingdom in Albania, to divide Albania once again. Like if Albania was divided up to that certain time when the religious buildings were destroyed, it was divided on the merits of class, then from the 90s onwards, the religion tried to divide the Albanians. Because the religion, let me finish this because this is very important. The sort of religious institutions that came back, it was not a coming back, it was a new beginning, because They had nothing to do like with the traditions of the Albanians. They thought, like, I know for a fact that the renewed Orthodox Church of Albania, they thought that Albania was in the apostolic times. And so they started to spread documents from the apostolic times, because they thought that this is the year zero, this is century zero for the Albanians, this new beginning after the fall of communism. But that is the wrong approach, in my opinion. Like, Catholicism didn't do that. Like, the Catholic Church did not do that, did not think that Albanians were back at the apostolic times. I mean, Islam did some other things, which we can go more in depth, but I'm sure you know of them. I think that that was the wrong approach, because what religion should have achieved in Albania was not to divide the Albanians further, and not try to transform the souls of the Albanians completely from a religionless existence to a fully religious life without ties to kin or nation. But yeah, the religious institutions, I think, have a major contribution to the idea that I have of Albania at its current time, being on the precipice, like being always on the precipice, being always in the middle, right? Because even these religious institutions, they had to be moderated by the state, because what they were doing were negatively influencing the hearts of the Albanians. So they had to be moderated by the state, and they exist in this sort of permanent moderation, in a sense of a permanent moderation in their doctrine and their practices, and so they never managed to enact real change, like real spiritual and cultural change, because they always stand on the precipice of moderation. And the Albanians, religiously wise, they always stand on the precipice of things, and they are in a permanent state of moderation. And I think that I mean, the day will come, sooner or later. The day will come when that permanent state of moderation has to go away. I'd rather see the Albanian people in the future holding religion dearly in their hearts, then I'd have them be the tools of organized crime in Europe and in Latin America. Because believe me, if you don't have religion, if you don't have God by your side, then by the end of the day, you'll end up with a nice car, but your life will be a short and a cursed life. Right? You will be the servant of cartels, you'll be the servant of organized crime, and you will take pride in that cursed existence, and you will take pride that you did not follow along God's path. And by the end of the day, I mean, like, you will have an entire population subject to this kind of mentality if Albania doesn't start to ask questions which have to do with its unwritten part of the constitution, which is the constitution of the heart. So this is one aspect of the Gordian knot. All right, this is, in my thesis, in my opinion, this is one aspect of the Gordian knot of Albania. The other aspect is sabotage. I think that Albania is currently being sabotaged by economically and politically by its neighboring states. I think that this
Which neighboring state?
by Serbia and Greece, but I think more
More or less happening since 100 years, constantly 110 years.
I mean, it might sound cliche, it might sound cringe, like at certain times, because you hear the Albanians all the time saying that Greece and Serbia are our greatest enemies, but it makes sense geopolitically, because Albania has the potential. I mean, I don't know what kind of knowledge you have in geopolitics, but Albania has the potential to be land and sea power at the same time. So it has the connection through land. It has the connection to land. You can build the railways through land that could make it become the hub for the Balkans. And it might pass like these railways. They might go from Albania to Kosovo, and then to Montenegro and to Bosnia, and then up to Vienna. and that would be concurrent with the 10th framework of the European Union. Exactly. So it has the potential to become a land power in that sense, but at the same time, it has the potential to become a sea power because it has like 3 strategically well-placed ports. One in the south, one in the middle, and one potentially in the north. Like there are studies around that if a port is built in the north, like it could outcompete Greece. It could put Thessaloniki and Igoumenitsa out of function. So Albania has the potential to be land and sea power at the same time. So it gets constantly sabotaged by Greece and Serbia.
Greece and
Because
Albania have now concluded this sea border agreement, which is still open and one of the obstacles for the future EU membership of Albania. There was this concluded since 2010. I think it's open, the sea demarcation.
yes, the sea demarcation issue, I mean, that's not that big of a deal because that can be resolved in court. Like at all times, it can be resolved in court. That's not that big of a deal. The big of a deal is when we talk about ports. So the ports are big of a deal, very big of a deal. Like I think the ports are a crucial reason why Greece is actively sabotaging Albania, and the railway in the north is the reason why Serbia is sabotaging Albania. And you know, like sabotage is a subtle thing. Sabotage is not. It does not manifest itself in a direct way. It's not confrontative, right? Sabotage is very rarely noticeable, and it comes softly. It comes with waves, and right now in 2026, it's February 2026, you might find yourself in a situation, and under the auspices of sabotage, 1 year later you find yourself in quite a different situation. So I think that when it comes to that particular topic, I think that the security apparatus of Albania is not doing a great job, because the security apparatus of Albania should pay attention to sabotage and pay attention to attempts of sabotage by foreign states. It should not pay attention that much to its own population.
When Edi Rama came to power in 2013, he promised a better relation with Greece and he promised the infrastructure of the south to be built. And I ask you now, is the highway now, so-called the highway to the south, to Kakavia, is already a highway? Is it finished?
Most of the big projects in the south, the big projects regarding the roads, especially those which were under the auspices of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy, most of them are already on their way to ruin.
To
Right?
ruin,
They
yeah.
have been, yeah, they have not been built to last, unfortunately. And especially the tunnel of Logara, the tunnel which sends you to Vlor. Like the tunnel has cracks. Like when it rains, the tunnel starts to put water. Like water starts to enter the tunnel, and that's very bad on an engineering sense, on an engineering scale. Like I've asked engineers myself, I've told them, please look at this video, look at this picture, what do you think this is? And they've told me, if this continues, then one day the tunnel might just come and fall down on the cars.
That's
But
very
they've told me,
unfortunate
like,
for the poor tourists who will pass in order to see your beautiful southern Albanian tourist. I spent my honeymoon in 2024. I spent my honeymoon in Termi and in these beautiful villages down in the south next to these islands in Saranda. This was really very amazing. I went then to continue to Corfu and I really loved it. But the idea was actually that there would be a highway between Albania and Greece in order to connect these two friendly NATO allies, Albania in NATO, Greece in NATO, and you want to join the European Union. So in 13 years, it should have been possible to build this highway from Flora to what is basically then Ioannina. and the Greeks have finished it already on their side mostly. So it would have been wonderful because you have over 1 million Albanians living in Greece, I guess about 700, maybe 1 million, I don't know the exact number, but it's really a huge population. And in the summer, there's always traffic jams at the southern border. And I thought that this cooperation with Greece will result in better living conditions for the Albanians in Greece and also in better interconnectivity for the highways. But unfortunately, it didn't materialize.
It didn't materialize, and I think that that is a very important point you set out there, that almost 1 million Albanians live in Greece. And yeah, I think they should start to vie for political representation in the Parliament of Greece, just as Greece lately is asking for the Albanians to change the law on minorities, even though like we have like for 20 to 30,000 Greeks like in the south of Albania, but we have a very sizable population of Albanians in Greece, and I think they should start to vie for political representation soon. But anyways,
It didn't help to jail the mayor of Himara, this member of the European Parliament, which Mitsotakis made a member of the European Parliament. And I don't know if I forgot his name, but he's free already, and he's still in jail. The mayor of the Greek.
No, he's free. He is free, I think. He is free.
For him. But you know, there can be, because when you want to join the European Union, you will have to have the support of Greece. And I see not so many measures of the Albanian government to really mend the relation with Greece, and of Greece to be nicer to Albania. I don't see so much. And we will have maybe many vetoes from Greece against Albania when it comes to the EU accession.
Well, I would say that, I mean, particularly when it comes to myself, I would say that uh, uh, sure, like we will need to get into the European Union sooner or later, but that doesn't mean that we should appease our neighbors in order for their little cute requests to take shape in Albania. I wouldn't like something like that. And like with Greece, like we don't have problems regarding name. We don't have the problems regarding the only problem is that Greece like just doesn't accept the fact that Albania can be a sea power in its own sense, and it should accept the fact that Albania can be a sea power with in its own sense. And I mean, sure, they can put a veto on our European Union membership, but they cannot take away our sea line. They cannot pretend that our sea line doesn't exist. And sure, they can sabotage the port, right? They can sabotage the establishment of a port, but they cannot continue to do that forever and ever. All right. So Greece has to come to terms that it's gonna have to share it's gonna have to share its ports with the ports of Albania in the far or the near future. And it has to come to terms with that now. Just as Serbia has to come to terms with the fact that Kosovo is a state. It's a sovereign state. It's not a part of Serbia anymore. Like, we're sorry, but it's not a part of Serbia anymore. It's part, and it might become part of Albania if a referendum happens in the future. So Greece and Serbia, they have to come to terms.
We have yesterday 18 years of the independence of the Republic of Kosovo, and I'm campaigning here for Kosovo to join NATO, to join the European Union together with Albania. So you will be united in the beautiful European Union together, and that's much better than any kind of unification project. But let's talk about...
I'm sorry, just one moment, please. I don't think that's better than any sort of unification process, because I see this point being repeated over and over and over by several people. And I'm sorry to say this, Gunther, but on this point, we don't agree. Like, I agree, I think that we must first join into a state, into a very functional state, with common political bodies of representation. And after we join, after we do this unification process and become one state, then we can join the European Union. And the European Union would do best to facilitate our national unification, as I am quite sure that the current administration of the United States of America would do its best to facilitate the current unification of the Albanians into one state. And I think that much of Euroscepticism stems from this point, and my personal Euroscepticism as well stems from this point, that we do not need to sacrifice our future. We do not need to sacrifice our future in order to make these sorts of amends to the European Union. Like, I mean, you are Austrian yourself.
Do you
Like, you
think
are
that
Austrian.
Albin Kurti, do you think that Albin Kurti would like to be the deputy prime minister of Edi Rama?
Well, the egos of our politicians are varied. Like we have, like the egos of our politicians are very colorful. They have like this, they have feathers, right? They have feathers stemming from the colors. I mean, yeah, with the current class of politicians, I don't know what will happen, but like in theoretically, and this is also a position of my movement, that we stand for the unification of the Albanians into one state, and we have nothing against the European Union if the European Union will grant us the possibility to achieve that, because like we're not aligned to Russia or anything. We just want to have our own state first. We want to unify, because that would and I must put an emphasis on this, that would fix part of our spiritual ailment, because when you have a state of the Albanians with 20,000 square meters, that kind of delimitation of borders, that has its own implications when it comes to certain spiritual parts of the Albanian people. Because when you have Albanians, they start to ask, but why is it like this? Why cannot it be bigger? Because like we speak the same language and we have the same heritage, right? And then you start to dig into history, and then you find out along the way, you find out that if UÇK didn't exist, then the independence of Kosovo would be impossible. But what took UÇK to exist? What took it to exist? What was the cause of UÇK? The cause of UÇK was an entity like Yugoslavia, which wanted to create a boiling pot of the peoples of the Balkans over there and slam a Yugoslavian passport onto that boiling pot and call it a day. And I don't appreciate those kinds of projects. Like, I want a Europe of nations, and to maybe use a well-known rhetoric of Prime Minister Orban of Hungary. Like, he has his own opinion on that. He has his own opinion, but I have my own opinion on that. And I think I'm very well entitled to use that as a rhetorical mean, to say that we want a European of nations, and nobody else but us Albanians can say it better today, that a Europe of nations is true Europe.
Absolutely. And it is like this, that we're all patriots here, and we also have the defeat of Orban planned for April. You will see that he will fall, and Peter Magyar will be the prime minister, and Hungary will be back to reason. And when it comes to Kosovo, of course, we liberated Kosovo with our NATO strikes, and that was very good. Every bomb on Serbia was justified, and I was very happily supporting the liberation of Kosovo. And I'm a big fan of George W. Bush, who recognized Kosovo as the American president in 2008. And so I love very much the Republic of Kosovo, and I want it to join NATO and the European Union. And also, I want Albania to join the Eurozone and adopt the Euro, because I'm very unhappy with Albanian lek to be actually depreciating, and then getting more value, destroying the tourism industry. So I'm actually very much for a Europeanization of Albania, which I think you also agree, that you want a moral renewal of Albanians and you really have a spiritual renewal. I say it's very important to have a Europeanization of Albania fast tracked, because my work experience and my 4 years in Kosovo and my 6 years in Albania which I lived all over, it was 11 years I lived in both countries, have taught me that the people in Kosovo are in their spirit much more European than the people in Albania, unfortunately. Yeah? And that has many reasons connected with the immigration towards Germany and Austria from the Kosovo people and Switzerland, and with the Albanians mostly being in Greece and in Italy. But there's also other reasons with the communist past, because Enver Hoxha was much worse, actually. And so we have a different in the mentality between the Kosovo Albanians and the Albanians in Albania, which is actually quite astonishing. And it's actually much bigger whenever the language and ethnicity unites you. It is very much a cultural divide between Kosovo Albanians and Albanians in Albania. And I don't see a common state as a real good settlement, because it would lead to enormous conflicts between the Kosovo mentality of doing things with good governance, with proper administration, like a Central European mentality, and the Albanians who are doing everything like Southern Europeans, a little bit shortcutting the due process, if I want to say like this. So I think
those things
not work very well.
those things can be fixed. Like those things can be fixed, like with time, right? But what matters is the principle. What matters is the principle, the unifying principle. That is what matters in the end. Like, I appreciate your efforts, Günther. Like, I really do, because I haven't seen like lobbyists in recent.
Oh, where is he? Austin, come back. Austin, I hope you come back. Where are you? Hello? I think he will enter the studio in a moment. We will continue our very excellent conversation in a second for Albania in the EU, and no Bashkimi, as I say. Okay, are you coming back? I will just check it out. I'm not sure he's coming back, but we will continue in how can I say, uncertain manner. We will continue to lobby for Albania in the European Union 2029, and also for Kosovo to join NATO and the European Union, and both states, together with North Macedonia and of course with Montenegro, will be united in NATO, which most of them are already. Kosovo is just missing, but of course they will be also united in the European Union and in the Euro. Albania joined the Euro, and everybody else as well to be active. And I'm just checking if he's coming back. He will be invited. Otherwise, it ended. Okay, good. That was the moment of our discussions on Albania. I will invite him back. It was a very interesting conversation with the gentleman who organized the Charlie Kirk memorial after this assassination of Charlie Kirk in Tirana. And it is, one. Click, link. No, I'm back on. Actually, it should be fine, yeah? Good. Yeah, that's how it is. We are in live videos here, and I really like it very much, this debate. He was organizing the Charlie Kirk thing. He is a conservative patriot, and I want to convince him of the European Union. That's part of my mission here, to convince everybody, the left and the right. It's the European Union for Albania is the good thing. And in Albania, we have very smart people. We're discussing about all these things together, and then we will do it again. Okay, this was my live stream for today on Albania in the European Union, and we will have this young gentleman back in the future. And I want to thank you very much for listening, and more to come.